European lawmakers established a strict timeline for the AI Act, designing it to operate as a hard boundary against algorithmic overreach. Providers of high-risk systems were given an original statutory deadline of August 2026 to comply with severe new obligations. The public was told an enduring perimeter of protection was on its way. This chart maps the divide between political messaging and market reality. The institutional narrative implies an 85% probability of on-time enforcement, but prediction markets priced the likelihood at 62%. Capital priced in a delay while political leadership remained committed to the original deadline. The boundary the public expects is already fractured. A provisional political agreement has quietly deferred the compliance requirements for standalone high-risk systems to December 2027. That pushes the hard deadline back by 16 months. Citizens continue to scroll, post, and engage under the assumption that a massive institutional mechanism will soon intervene on their behalf. In reality, they are sitting beneath a structural wall that financial networks already know is compromised. The cause of the delay sits entirely in the operational mechanics of Brussels. A regulation cannot be enforced if the specific testing infrastructure required to verify compliance does not physically exist. The European technical committees responsible for drafting the harmonized compliance standards hit a bottleneck. The core testing benchmarks required for high-risk AI verification are not expected to be finalized until December 2026. The calendar required companies to comply months before the instructions on how to comply were even written. Compounding this technical failure is a macroeconomic tightening. With headline inflation hitting 3.8% in the spring of 2026 and energy costs rising sharply year over year, European member states exhausted the political bandwidth required to force an aggressive new enforcement regime onto their industrial bases. Executives within the European Commission immediately reframed the resulting compromise. Tech sovereignty officials characterized the revised timeline as a set of innovation-friendly parameters, suggesting the delay is a deliberate feature designed to foster corporate growth rather than an admission of institutional failure. The nature of the AI Act has been rewritten mechanically. It is no longer a rigid boundary designed to halt harmful algorithmic deployment by a specific date. It is a sliding variable, weighed actively against the cost of corporate innovation. Moving the deadline for high-risk system obligations to December 2027 creates a 16-month audit gap. This leaves biometric, employment, and content algorithms completely unverified. During this gap, technological institutions will execute their default programming. Corporate momentum outweighs citizen protection when the regulatory timeline slips. Those unconstrained optimization functions land directly on the household. Recommender systems continue to maximize engagement signals, despite clear surveillance data from health agencies documenting the severe toll this exact engagement model takes on adolescent mental health. The legislative process measures progress in months, trilogues, and staggered deployment windows. The algorithms operating on the population measure progress in milliseconds, deploying optimized outputs to users constantly throughout the day. The price of the regulatory delay is not paid by politicians in Brussels or by capital allocators adjusting their portfolios. The cost is extracted daily from the attention, privacy, and psychological stability of the unprotected household. The true threat of the audit gap is structural. It triggers an optimization recursion. Giving machines another 16 to 24 months of delay means giving them millions of hours of unconstrained behavioral data to train on. As citizens wait passively for the AI Act to eventually take effect, they continue to engage with their devices. The machine absorbs that interaction, feeding it straight into the next iteration of the algorithm to make its screening and recommendation logic even sharper. This creates a self-perpetuating data void. Because rights protections are missing from current deployments, they are also missing from the behavioral data being harvested for the next generation of models. Institutions prioritize their own flow mechanics above all else. The structural cavalry is stalled in technical committees and voting blocks. Relying on a future external law guarantees your continuous engagement today. That engagement provides the exact data the machine requires to optimize against you tomorrow. Discard the timeline in Brussels. Ignore the market probabilities, the technical standards, and the political rhetoric. Bring your attention directly to the physical room you are sitting in. You possess absolutely zero leverage over trilogue negotiations. You cannot accelerate the drafting of technical standards, And you cannot outspend the lobbying efforts deployed to fracture the regulatory boundary. The single absolute point of control you possess is your immediate physical relationship to the device in front of you. The machine requires your attention to survive the gap. Withdraw it. Break the recursive loop by physically removing the data input it needs to operate. Stop waiting for an external wall to be built. Alter your relationship to the screen, right now, before you even stand up.